Hello everybody and welcome back to Simon's Order Academy. Today we're going to be talking about Har Kuron, the City of Serpents. So this city was introduced in Broken Realms Morathi when, spoiler alert, Morathi took Anvilgard over from the cities of Sigmar and the Stormcast Eternals. The rules for the Stronghold, or the sub-city, are actually quite strong, but are also at the same time very reflective of the fluff that is presented in that book. So if you haven't given it a read, I highly suggest that you go and do so. So a quick overview of the city. We'll start with the battle traits. So Har Kuron army cannot use the Ways of the Free People battle traits from the cities of Sigmar Battletome. What this means in effect is that you don't get empowered endless spells, you don't get an honored retinue, and you don't get an adjutant for your general, which is quite sad because Har Kuron, which you'll see later in the list that I run, quite likes to have command points available. As part of this rule, you can also only have units with the keywords Darkling Covens, Order Serpentis, Scourge Privateers, and Shadow Blades. So typically units that you don't really see a whole lot of. You might see Dark Shards from the Darkling Covens. Order Serpentis, you might see a Dreadlord and Black Dragon, maybe. Scourge Privateers, like Corsairs, are actually not bad battle line, but you don't really see them because they're only battle line if you've got a Black Ark Fleet Master. But you have previously seen the Scourge Runner chariots, which are actually quite good. And then finally, Shadow Blades is the Assassin and the Shadow Warriors, which people probably see a lot of. I read this as you can't even ally units with other keywords in, so don't bother, basically. Next is on the shores of the Searing Sea. So it is, it is in action because it is Anvilgard. So this gives you access to the Incandescent Rageblade Relic, which gives you exploding sixes on melee weapons for a hero, basically. The next rule is Temples of Cain. So 1 in every 4 units from your army can be from the Daughters of Cain Battletome. They gain the cities of Sigmar and Har Kuron keywords, which is quite good. The stuff isn't in this book, in this army isn't exactly heavy on keywords. The command ability below is keyword dependent, but essentially it's just nice to have those keywords. And then the second part of the Temples of Cain battle trait is that you get access to the Incitement to Murder prayer. So Incitement to Murder is, if this prayer is successful, pick 1 friendly Har Kuron unit wholly within 12 inches of the priest until the start of your next hero phase. If the unmodified hit roll for an attack made by the unit is 6, that attack scores 2 hits on the target instead of 1. So essentially exploding sixes, which is quite nice. And it's on melee and range attacks. The Catechism of Murder from Daughters of Cain only triggers 6s to hit, do an extra hit, but this one is actually 6s to hit. 6s to hit in melee, whereas this is 6s to hit with melee and ranged. And the other thing is that if you take a Daughters of Cain priest, they get to attempt this prayer on top of their normal base one, which is quite nice. And then finally is the command ability, Make an Example of the Weak. So use this command ability at the start of your Battle Shock phase. If you do so, pick 1 friendly Har Kuron unit wholly within 12 of a friendly Har Kuron hero. 1 model in that unit is slain, and then for the rest of the phase you don't need to take Battle Shock tests for Har Kuron units wholly within 18 of that unit. So it's quite strong, especially if you're stringing out a unit, if let's say 10 Bleak Swords or Dread Spears in a line. You kill one of them, the rest of those guys are still 19 inches roughly across, and then it's measure 18 from each side guy. So, you can get up to like 55 inches of Battle Shock immunity on lengthways, I mean. So it's actually, it's a really impressive command ability, and I'm a big fan of it. So there are 3 command traits available to the general of a Har Kuron army. The first one is Bathed in Blood. So you add 1 to the general's wounds characteristic, and at the start of the hero phase they heal 1 wound that's been allocated to them. It's quite good. It's useful on low wound characters, so let's say a sorceress to take them from 5 wounds to 6, or a Black Ark Fleet Master to take them from 5 wounds to 6, which represents an increased survivability by 20%, or you can increase a 6 wound model to 7 wounds, and you get roughly 17% increase. I think the best place to take this is probably on a higher wound model. So if in this example I've used the Dreadlord on Black Dragon. It increases survivability by 7%, but basically the extra 3 heals means that you've effectively become an 18 wound model. In a similar vein, you can put this on a Death Hag on a Cauldron of Blood, or a Slaughter Queen on a Cauldron of Blood for similar wounds increase. So the second one is Murderous Zeal. So if the general is a priest, then they can use Incitement to Murder twice, which is good. You can't cast it on the same unit twice. That would be strong, but you can't do that. It says so in the rules. But you can use it on 2 different units. So you can use it on, say, 1 melee unit and 1 ranged unit, and that's really quite good. Or you can cast it twice on the same unit if you fail it the first time. That's the other option. And then if the general isn't a priest, you can use Incitement to Murder as if they were. So interestingly, it doesn't say how you cast it if they're not a priest. I just assume that it's a 3+ from the like from the Death Hags and the Daughters of Cain models are casted, so it's on a 3+. But it really could do with some clarification from Games Workshop. I did ask it to be clarified in the FAQ, and they declined to do that. So I think it's strong, especially when you've got when you've got the option to have the unit of 40 Dark Shards, and they've got exploding 6s, and especially if you can give them 120 shots, you're getting 20 extra shots out of that. So it's really strong. And then finally, Dark Adept. The bearer isn't a wizard, but knows Arcane Bolt and Mystic Shield. But interestingly, no Law spell, so I don't really know why you'd take this on someone that isn't a wizard. But one place that I would take it is that if they're already a wizard, they get an extra cast, which is not horrible. 2 casts on most of the Dark and Coven wizards with a +2 to cast is, quite good. And as we'll find out very soon, the Law for this city is actually extremely strong. All these are good options. I would probably tend to go to Murderous Zeal if you don't have access to a priest, just so you get that prayer in your army because it's very strong. Or if you're going for something like a big guy like a Dreadlord on Black Dragon, or a Hag or Slaughter Queen on Cauldron of Blood, I'd probably consider going Bathed in Blood on that general instead. So the city only gets access to 3 artifacts of power plus the incandescent Rage Blade, which no one's going to take. So the first one is Life Taker. So in your shooting phase, pick 1 enemy unit within 36 inches of the bearer and visible to them. Roll a dice. On a 3 to 5 it does 1 mortal wound. On a 6 it does D3. So it's good because the range is 36 inches. But just doing 1 mortal, if it was just 2+, it does a mortal wound, it'd honestly probably be better. But yeah, the way they've worded it, I think I would have preferred, on a 2 to 4 you do 1 mortal wound, and on a 5 or 6 you do D3. It wouldn't be too powerful and would be in line with other artifacts that are out there, though the range is quite strong. So I think it's okay. The next one is the very obvious best of the bunch. So I've completely misspelled subtract, but that's fine. Subtract 1 from hit rolls with missile weapons that target a friendly unit wholly within 12 of the bearer. Absolutely amazing, especially when you've got like a little castle in the middle of the board where you've got, your obligatory Dark Shards, and in one of my lists, Bloodstalkers and Marathi, and all your characters all sitting in like a castle in the middle. Your -1 to hit all your base units, including the Shadow Queen. Your -2 to hit any of your characters because they have Lookout Sir, and your -3 to hit Marathi Kane if she has Lookout Sir as well. Really, really strong. And I don't think I can understate the strength of this in the current shooting meta. So I think that this artifact alone is probably a good reason to take this city. The third one is okay. Start of the hero phase, roll a dice. On a 5+, you get a command point. So it's okay because you've lost the adjutant battle trait, and so you're not accumulating command points at the same rate that any other city will. But a lot of other cities, including Settlers Gain, which I did a video on 2 weeks ago, they get it on 4+ on the artifacts, so I don't know why this is a 5+. You've also got that in Halo Heart's got an option for that, and I think Tempest Eye also has an option for that, and they're all on 4+, so it doesn't really make sense that this is a 5, but it is what it is. Of these options, I would probably go definitely Trader's Banner, and then it would be a coin flip between Life Taker and Nullstone, depending on what my ranged mortal output for the entire list is. So now we can talk about the spell law, which is probably the strongest thing about this city besides being able to take Marathi. So first one is Sap Strength, casting value of 6, -1 to hit rolls for an enemy unit within 18. So it's amazing. It's a great spell. Word of Pain is the War Scroll spell for Darkling Coven sorceresses, and so a -2 to hit is double as good as a -1 to hit. So if you combine those two spells, especially if you've got a general that's got 2 casts with the Dark Adept, they can cast Sap Strength and they can also cast Word of Pain, both at +2 to get off that, to get -2 to hit on a single unit, which is really strong, especially if you're playing Marathi and the Shadow Queen in the mirror. So the second one is the Withering. So casting value of 7, +1 to wound against an enemy unit within 18 inches. So again, amazing. I know I talk about the 120 shots from the Dark Shards, but makes them a 3+ to wound instead of a 4+, which is very strong. Or if you're sending in a melee unit, +1 to wound on literally hundreds of attacks is very strong. A big fan of this spell as well. Third one is Vitriolic Spray. You probably heard about this one from Anvilguard. It is possibly one of the best spells in the game. Custom value of 7, and an enemy unit within 6 has a save of dash. So what that effectively means is it's a 7+, so if they're in cover, they'll still go back to a 6+. But it means that things like, in a game that I played the other day, actually I recorded it and put it on the channel, so go watch that. But I put Vitriolic Spray on a Bastiladon with a 1+ save, and it had a 0 save, and then I removed it with, pittance shooting. So it's really strong. You probably need to combine it with the Umbral Spell Portals to get the best value out of it, and that increases its range to 24, 25, probably about 26.5 from where your cast is standing, which is, again, very strong. The next one is Steed of Shadows, casting value of 6, caster gets fly and move 16. Yeah. Your casters, anyway, are either 5 wound models on foot, and that doesn't matter, or they're on a Black Dragon, and so they move far enough, or they're Marathi. Yeah. If there was an ability to know all the spells in the lore, it would be good for utility, but that doesn't exist, so I don't think I would ever take Steed of Shadows. It's probably my least favourite from the list. The fifth one is Pit of Shades, casting value of 7, enemy unit within 18, basically roll 2d6 and subtract their movement characteristic, and deal that many mortal wounds to that unit. So, it's okay. Against dwarves, you're going to do an average 3 mortal wounds. Obviously there's the chance that you're going to spike high, but there's an equal chance you're going to spike low and do nothing. And I think I much prefer the Celestial Battle Mage's ability, which is roll 2d6. If you get above, you do d6 mortal wounds. If you roll below, you get d3. I just think this is a worse version of that spell, essentially. So it's probably, and it's, it still will technically do mortal wounds or something, but some things are going to be completely immune to it. Anything that's half fast at all is just going to completely ignore it. And then finally, Shadow Daggers, cast on a 7, enemy unit within 9 takes d6 mortal wounds. When you've got the Umbral Spell Portals, Bow and Vortex, again, still better. And it's not a bad option. I think the order, I would take the first 3 spells in the lore first before I even considered Shadow Daggers, and you'd have to have a lot of casters to cast all that stuff. But I still think that it's worth a mention, and it's not a horrible spell at all. So Kraith's Shadowhost is the battalion that was available in Broken Realms Marathi. Drusa Kraith was basically the sorceress at the head of some shadowy cartel in Anvilguard that took it over, and they decided to give her some rules. So the battalion itself costs 160 points baseline. The minimum buy-in is 650 points because you require a sorceress on a Black Dragon, 1 unit of Dread Spears, 1 unit of Dark Shards, and they all must have the Anvilguard or Har Kuron keywords. So interestingly, Dread Spears, not Bleak Swords, so I wasn't really sure what why they go 1 Dread Spears or Bleak Swords, but it is what it is. And the sorceress on the Black Dragon becomes a named unique character, and so you can't give her an artifact or give her a command trait. But she gets one of her own if you make her the general. I'll just cover that now. So if she is the general, she gives 1 extra CP at the start of the game. So I don't think that there's value in choosing her to be the general over someone else that can get one of those really good command traits this city has. But the big thing about taking this battalion is that if Drusa is on the battlefield, she can give all the units in the battalion +1 attacks on all their weapons, including herself, including the Dark Shards, but they suffer -1 to save rolls. And look, it doesn't really matter for the -1 to save roll. She's got a 5. Oh, she might even have a 6 up. Actually, I haven't looked at that. I know the Dark Shards start off with a 4, with a 5 up, so they'll go to a 6 up, which is, It's not great, but I mean it's not, it's obviously not good, but it's not completely crap either. The spear guys are literally there just to be stabbed by sorceresses, so you don't really care what their save is. And yeah, her save is a 5+ a base, so she'll go to a 6 up. So you don't want to be like fighting good models with her, but if you need her to go into combat, she can do it, and she gets +1 attack on all of her weapons. So yeah, my thoughts on the battalion. Giving Dark Shards an extra attack is amazing. They go from 2 to 3 shots each. You got a unit of 40, that's 120 shots from Dark Shards, hitting on 3s, winning on 4s. With all the stacks, you can get them on, 3s to hit, 3s to wound, reroll 1s to hit, potentially with a reroll, all to wound if you got the correct triumph. And then if you get vitriolic spray off on their target, you get an average of 54 wounds before any rerolls are applied. And again, if you get the prayer off, add 18 to that roughly, because you get another 20 hits, and then not 18, another 12. So let's go 65 wounds before any rerolls are applied if you get to target a unit with all 40 of them. So it's pretty decent. And I've included a list with her at the end because I really like her. So it's fun. It's fun. She's a fun character. It's a fun battalion. It gets you an extra artifact. The artifacts aren't great, but it also gets you an extra command point. So I think it's worth considering in this city, but it's probably better in Anvilgard. But we will cover that at a later date. So, clickbait title, can it compete? I'm very confident that it can compete. Pretty much every city in Cities of Sigmar can compete, but this one more than most probably can, depending on what you include with it. I played one game on the tabletop, about 1,000 games in my brain, and so far I think it is a very strong city. Mostly because there's lots of internal synergies revolving around using the spell lore, so Withering is amazing. Vitriolic Spray is obviously amazing, and Sap Strength is good in clutch situations. And then just War Scroll spells like Morathi. So I'll put a link to the video where I played Har Kuron in the top right hand corner. But basically I took Morathi Kane, the Shadow Queen, and 10 Bloodstalkers, and all of the kind of strong abilities for those models are on their War Scroll. You obviously don't get the 6+ after save, but it doesn't really matter because they're just inherently strong. And so when you can go Vitriolic Spray on something from Morathi who can't die until turn 3, it's really strong. Again, you have to take the Umbral Spell Portal to make all this go off, and even Vitriolic Spray is still 7 to cast, but when you're stabbing people to get +2 to cast, you need 5. And sometimes you won't get it off, but when you do it, it's incredibly strong. Now, when you're not taking Daughters of Cain, you're taking Darkly Coven, Scourge Privateers, and Order Serpentis models, as well as the Shadow Blades, but they're good, so we don't need to talk about them. It doesn't inherently make any of those models good. The battalion obviously makes the Dark Shards better than they are at baseline. But when you've only got those cities, those keyworded models to take. They're actually, it makes you think of building a list in a different way. You don't just put Phoenix Guard in every list. You don't just put Iron Drakes in every list. Like I quite enjoy it because I'm forced to take other options, and I kind of wish that they did keyword lock a few more cities a little bit more than they have in the Cities of Sigmar Battletome, because I think it would make for more interesting lists. The Trader's Banner alone makes it a really strong city to take in the current shooting meta. Like KO hate it. I played in the game that I played before. I played against 3 Bastillodons shooting twice. They hated it. Like even just a -1 to hit is really strong into shooting. And then finally, the best and most important thing is that it's a lot of fun to play, particularly with the Shadow Queen, because Cities of Sigmar don't typically have like that centerpiece model that's really strong and really does something unique. And I mean, you can take Alariel, but she's a bit boring at the moment. And with Settlers Gain, you can now take Teclis. So my argument's actually kind of moot, but Shadow Queen is the best of those 3, and she is great fun to play. So I've got 2 potential lists that if you're looking to jump straight into Har Kuron, which not a lot of people will, because you've got to have Daughters of Cain and Cities of Sigmar models, and not a lot of people have stuff that's readily available like that. But if you do, here are some example lists. So the first one is the one that I played in the battle report last week. So it's got a sorceress with vitriolic spray, a Black Arc Fleet Master who is the general. He's got Murderous Zeal for the prayer, and he's got the Trader's Banner for the -1 to hit bubble. A second sorceress with the Withering, Marathi Kane with vitriolic, important because you can't kill her before turn 3, so you have access to vitriolic spray for at least the first 3 turns. I say at least 3, at least the first 2 turns if you decide to charge something with the Shadow Queen. But otherwise you should have access to it for the first 3 hero phases. The battle line is 30 Dark Shards and 3 Scourge Runner Chariots. So the Scourge Runner Chariots are just body blockers basically, and they're essentially a null drop because it doesn't really matter where they go. They're relatively fast at 12 inches. They're 80 points. They fill in battle line, and they get you to your 12 drops that you need to take the 3 Daughters of Cain units in the army. And then finally, the units are the 2 10s of Shadow Warriors and a 10 of Bloodstalkers. So the unit itself is very strong. Sorry, the unit of Bloodstalkers itself is very strong inherently. When you take it with Marathi Kane, you can make it shoot twice. When you take it in Har Kuron, you can give them exploding 6s. So I mean, instead of 6, gives them mortal wound as well as giving an extra hit. And you can also do, vitriolic spray, and you can also do the Withering. So they're on 3s to hit, 2s to wound, exploding 6s, no armor save. It's really good. And the Dark Shards are just also good. One of the things that people miss about the Dark Shards and the Sorceresses is that you can spend a command point to give them run and shoot. So at baseline, they've got 16-inch range and they move 6, so they've got a 22-inch threat. But if you run them, and you can be lucky enough to run them 6, they get +1 to their run rolls, so that's an extra 7, so you got 29-inch threat on them. So they can actually put out hurt a long way down range. So the pros of this list, it's got a very strong magic phase. I've got 2 sorceresses that are on +2 to cast, and then Marathi, who's got 3 spells at +1 to cast. You've got vitriolic spray until at least turn 3. The Umbral Spell Portal allows you to put it where you need to. It's not empowered, so it's only 18 inches away, but essentially you've got a 26 and a half-ish threat from wherever the cast is standing to deliver the spell to. So you should be able to get it majority of time to where you need to. The inherent kind of synergy in the list is that you can get the Shadow Queen into combat, and she will tie up whatever would threaten your Bloodstalkers or your Dark Shards from range. And then the Bloodstalkers can follow up and get into combat. If you can get Vitriolic Spray on their target, they've actually got 3 attacks in melee, which are quite good, 3s and 4s, 3s and 3s with Withering. And for 10 of them, that's 30 attacks. That's actually really good for a shooting unit. And then you've got the 3 Scourge Runners that just put out shots downrange and basically just tie stuff up. I tried to do this in my game against Chris, but he just killed them with Skinks, which is, story of my fucking life at the moment with Seraphon as they are. Hopefully change soon. And yeah, double shooting Stalkers are very strong. And your Dark Shards are only doing 2 shots each, but they're 30 battle line bodies in this, so it's actually quite good. But speaking of that, cons of the list, not a lot of battle line bodies for the relevant scenarios, only one behemoth, and that's the Shadow Queen herself. The melee output is okay. It's mostly coming from the Shadow Queen, and then potentially the Bloodstalkers once you get them in. But really, it's Marathi Kane and the Shadow Queen that are doing your melee fighting, which is fine as long as they stay alive. But they're a big target, and often your opponent will focus to take them down. And then again, relies on magic for output. So if you've got stuff that's 3 up and you can't get your Vitriolic off, your Dark Shards aren't doing anything, and your Bloodstalkers probably aren't doing a whole lot either. But this is the list that I've been playing, and the list that I'll probably continue playing. I don't like that it's 2,000 points. That really annoys me, because I really like getting a triumph. So I've been experimenting with some things like dropping one of the Shadow Warriors down to just a 10 of Black Arc Corsairs or Bleak Swords, just to get something else, just to get extra points. I really don't like playing at 2,000 points. I feel like that you're hurting yourself if you do that. We'll go on to the second list. So the second list is also includes Daughters of Cain units, because if you're not including Daughters of Cain units, why are you playing Har Kuron? There are better options in other cities. And this one I've decided to try and include the battalion, so Kraith Shadowhost. So this one I haven't played. I will play it at some point. I'm excited to play the city, and this is the second list that I want to play with them. So you get a Sorceress on Black Dragon, which is obviously Drusa Kraith. She's got 14 wounds, so Vitriolic Spray is a good one on her. She can charge in, fight stuff in combat, and vitriolic spray it. And you've still got access to the spell portal anyway if you want to do that. She can still, you've got 3 sorceresses, so you can stab things. That's why the dread spears are nice, because they're basically just for stabbing. That's it. But I've got all 3 spells on this one, so vitriolic spray, sap strength, and the withering, because I love all of the spells and it gives you a bit of flexibility. They might try and focus down the Drusa, but 300 points, like, nobody really cares. The Slaughter Queen on the Cauldron of Blood. So I had a discussion with Smorgon about Slaughter Queen versus the Hag Queen. I think in this city, because of the most recent changes to the Witch Brew, I don't think that there's a point taking the Hag Queen over the top of the Slaughter Queen. That's personal opinion. You might disagree, and feel free to leave your feelings below in the comments if you disagree with that. But the Slaughter Queen has the Bathed in Blood, which is the +1 wound, so the Cauldron goes to 14 wounds and heals a wound at the start of every hero phase, so quite fun. And then the Trader's Banner, it's obviously on a bigger base, so you're getting a much bigger area of effect, basically, with the Trader's Banner on a big base model, and, you know, you shouldn't be taking any other artifact, but you can take a second artifact in this city. Which I haven't actually put on because I've got a battalion. I think you just take, in this one, because you got the Slaughter Queen for fight twice on the Sisters of Slaughter, I think you just take the 5-up command point artifact. I think it's probably the best option on just one of the 2 sorceresses. So in Battle Line, we've got 40 Dark Shards this time, and 10 Dread Spears with Drusa are in the battalion. So you've got 120 shots coming out of the Dark Shards. The Dread Spears are there to be stabbed. Real good. Again, I was discussing Sisters of Slaughter versus Witch Elves. I think in this list, the 6-inch pile-in is quite good. I don't think that the Witch Elves, besides being cheaper, give you a whole lot over the Sisters of Slaughter. I know they get +1 to wound, but if you've got, like, because they've only got 1-inch range, if you've got 20 Sisters attacking compared to 20 Witch Elves attacking compared to 30 Sisters, the Sisters have slightly better output. They've both got the bladed bucklers, but the Sisters get the pile in 6 inches. And when you get to do that twice, piling in 12 inches might get you onto an objective and win you a game, is my thought. And then because you don't want your Sisters or your Dark Shards to get charged first, I just included 2 units of Blackheart Corsairs, literally just for screening. They've got a 4-up against shooting. They don't do a whole lot, but, you know, 9-inch range, nothing shooting, it's fine. Like, they're just a screen. If they do anything, then that's great. If you're playing against a list that isn't going to charge you in melee, they can sit on a back objective and babysit it for you. And then finally, the Umbral Spell Portal, because any of those spells going off, it's better if they go off, you know, 18 inches further away from where you are. And yeah, I think that it's, I think it's quite good. I like this list. It's got a lot of battle line bodies. For the scenarios at requirement. It's got 137 wounds, which is quite good for a 2,000 point list. It's great in melee, especially when the Sisters of Slaughter fight twice, especially when the Sisters of Slaughter have the Withering off on their target and Vitriolic Spray. You'll just absolutely rinse some people's units. You know, the Sorceress on Black Dragon is pretty durable. And sorry, you've got two behemoths, so you've got, you know, 2 resilient models. The general in the Slaughter Queen is particularly durable, you know, with the +1 to save bubble as well, makes the Sisters of Slaughter 4+. It's resilient to shooting because it's got -1 to hit. The fight twice command ability is amazing. And yeah, 120 shots from Dark Shards. That's a thing. The cons is that to get the 120 shots, you need Drusa to be alive. She's only got 14 wounds and a 6-up save. And she is probably going to be trying to actually charge into stuff to do work, because she needs to do work because she's 300 points worth of model. And so going into that, majority of your army is on a 5+. Sisters of Slaughter will get a 4+, so that's not bad. And their Bladed Bucklers means they're going to be killing stuff as they die. But I'm not too sure that you're going to survive if your opponent has lots of, you know, low-rend, high output attacks. It's gonna hurt you quite significantly. And again, you need the spells to go off for output in this list, but I don't think that's such a big deal because spells are quite good in this list. If you've got any questions about the lists, hit me up below or see me on Twitter. We can discuss Har Kuron lists. I've got a few more in the Azir app as well. These are just the ones that I wanted to include today for you guys to have a look. Alright, that's it. We've reached the end again. So thank you everyone for watching. If you like this video, please hit the little thumbs up. Consider subscribing to the channel. This content's coming out on a weekly basis at the moment. I seem to be being able to keep up with that release schedule, so they're going to keep coming. Probably going to try and vary between unit reviews and city reviews, because there's a lot of units in this book, but I'm just on a bit of a Har Kuron kind of bend at the moment, so I thought I would channel that enthusiasm into a video. So if you've got any questions, please put them in the comments below. Reach out to me on Twitter. I'm at Zweihander or just chat to me wherever Age of Sigmar is happening, because I'm having a great time in the game at the moment. And thank you very much, and I will see you guys next time.